Chaos Space Marine Possessed are, of course, possessed Space Marines. Imbued with the strength and ferocity of a demon, what they lack in reason they make up for in sheer brutality and inhuman speed and strength. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling. Today we are covering the Possessed of the Chaos Space Marines, who just relatively recently, I guess it was a couple years ago now, got updated models that look quite nice. The Possessed come in at 120 points for 5 or 240 for 10, so the cheapest of the Chaos Space Marines elite melee units. They move 9 inches, they are toughness 6 with a 3+ save, a 5+ invulnerable, 3 wounds, leadership 6+, and OC1. A very solid stat line at this points cost. They're very tough to a lot of weapons, and will just generally require some dedicated firepower to remove, given their invulnerable save. In terms of melee weapons, they have Hideous Mutations, which are 4 attacks that hit on 3s at strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2. The AP is a bit disappointing, but damage 2 does mean that any failed save is going to sting that much more, and this profile is of course quite good against most kinds of infantry. In terms of abilities, Unholy Bloodshed is a once per battle ability when this unit makes a Dark Pact. Until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by models in this unit have the Devastating Wounds ability. This is where they get their big sting in the tail. This allows them to rip down very tough targets in one round of melee, just through the sheer amount of devastating wounds they can do. The unit composition is 1 possessed, and then 4 to 9, 1 possessed champion, and then 4 to 9 possessed. Every model is simply equipped with the Hideous Mutations, and one model can be equipped with 1 Chaos Icon, which of course you should take. I would put it on your Sergeant, just because he's probably going to be the last one standing, and this allows you to reroll leadership tests for the Dark Pacts ability. Very handy, just to make sure you're not taking any extra mortal wounds that you don't need to. And in that critical moment, it can definitely make all the difference to get maximum power out of your unit when you need it. In terms of what I would take on Dark Pacts, if you're fighting tough stuff, usually lethal hits, but if it is your Devastating Wounds phase, just go for sustained hits and try and drown them in unsavable damage, which they more than easily can do, especially in large units where they will make mincemeat out of tough vehicles, out of Terminators, out of just about anything. When they have their Dev Wounds up, they can rip through them with relative ease. Especially, of course, if they're at max capacity in terms of unit size. In terms of buff options, they really only have the one, and that's the Master of Possessions, though you could also lump in the Chaos, Sorcerer, and Terminator armor to give them extra AP, which they would much appreciate on other turns. He does move 1 inch slower than the unit, but if you're careful with how you position the unit, he can technically lag behind and still be in unit coherency. With his +1 to advance and charge, it's not the end of the world, though. Though his special rule is rather weak, he simply makes the unit suffer a mortal wound, and he gets +1 to hit and wound with his psychic weapons at range and in melee, which is useful, but situational. If you need to, you could technically use your Devastating Wounds in the shooting phase to make his anti-psyker weapon very good against something like Magnus to almost force 6 damage onto a enemy unit, which if you desperately need to take out a big threat like Magnus, that could definitely be worth it. He's good for enhancements, but highly optional aside from that. In terms of detachments, Veterans of the Long War is pretty nice. They can get that good detachment rule to reroll all hits when they get into combat. This is very good to fish for more sustained or lethals, and fight first could be very, very powerful. Deceptors, they don't have too much that's super specific, though you could use them as a solid unit to build up from all sides, just given their immense speed. Their charges should be very easy, to give something like Terminators or a Forge Fiend +3 to charge. You could also use Soul Link on the Master of Possessions to get him a better leader skill from something like, say, a Master of Executions or a Sorcerer and Terminator armor, something like that. In terms of Renegade Raiders, Assault is pointless without the leader because they don't have any ranged weapons, because who needs to shoot? The extra strength they get is nice, though, when they're fighting stuff on objectives. Mark of the Hand is pretty scary, especially with the advance and charge stratagem to have a first turn charge. Dread Talons has some situational damage buff, but a pretty bad detachment overall. Failhammer gives them extra durability, which is really nice on this guy since they're pretty beefy. Packbound Zealots, all the marks are quite good on these guys, but I'd say Undivided for devastating wound fishing is the best, and Slaanesh can give them more sustained hits if you just want more wounds to roll for and to be more consistent with your damage. In terms of Chaos Cult, they can have cultists soak fire for them, but they're likely to outpace any cultists, so this detachment isn't great for them. They aren't vehicles, so they don't really get anything from Soulforge, though they are fast and tough, so they could act as a screen. Creations of Bile, all of the upgrades you can get there are very good. Extra attacks is probably my favorite, though movement, speed, strength are both good as well. They all have a place, though. In terms of Of strats, Advance and Charge is very good. In terms of Shadow Legion, which is a personal favorite of mine, Deep Strike is a nice touch to get them anywhere on the board when they need to. And Scout's 9 inches is good, though better on other units, for example, like a Bloodthirster or a big unit of Bloodletters, I'd say, just because these guys are already naturally very fast, and they're tough enough that they can usually take a little bit of fire as they jump from cover to cover. Moving on to competition, of course it's just the other elite melee units for the Chaos Space Marines. Chosen are significantly squishier given their lower toughness and lack of an invulnerable save, though with built-in Advance and Charge they really aren't that much slower than the Possessed here. Damage is a bit of a wash since people will fail more saves against Chosen, but the saves they do fail against Possessed will deal twice as much damage. I will say the Chosen probably punch up better just thanks to their better AP. But given how squishy they are, they probably want some sort of delivery like a Rhino or a Land Raider to really get there at max power without getting blasted away by a plasma tank of some kind. In terms of Terminators, I'd say about even in toughness, just given the fact that these guys are 60 points cheaper than Terminators. Terminators have a better special rule, I will admit, and punch up better thanks to all their power fists. But of course they do move at a snail's pace compared to Possessed. If you just need immediate pressure and something that can, once per game, take out just about anything, the Possessed do that job very well. They're units with similar goals but different ways of achieving them, so I think they can both happily coexist, with the Alpha Strike being done with Possessed and then everything else being cleaned up by the Terminators. The two work well in concert, I would say. And I think that all these units actually are quite good, so it really is up to personal preference and what you want your army to look like and feel like with their little fluff that you make for their background. In terms of best units, the Possessed are quite literally as simple as a unit comes. They have one weapon and a once per battle ability. You just run at the enemy with insane speed for Space Marine infantry and rip them apart. Their one turn of devastating wounds allow them to easily drag down anything less than a knight, and if you're rolling even a little bit hot, they easily can destroy a knight. Outside of that turn, they're going to struggle more against hard stuff, but will make short work of medium and light infantry, especially things like knobs that rely on like toughness, for example. Their speed does give them the luxury to pick fights, something that most melee units do not have. It also allows them to jump from line of sight blocking terrain very easily, so against armies like Tau, they can put effectively a timer on them since they can simply jump from ruin to ruin to avoid the powerful shooting of the Tau, and then rip them apart once they get close enough. Their toughness and high wound count means they do require things like plasma weapons or autocannons to be turned against them, so they are quite resilient to most weapons, especially small arms, which will do next to nothing against them. The Master of Possession is a nice option if you have an enhancement you need. If wanting big damage combos, of course, just bring a big unit. But even just as small, almost utility units, these guys are excellent. Their speed, toughness, and danger means they will rip apart most other armies' utility units while not being super duper expensive. I think they work great as a roaming threat or as a instantaneous pressure applier. I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.